continue with our valley fill, our valley framing, and we're going to put our ridge board in. Our ridge board is the board that's going to go cross level here with the peak of the trusses to form our ridge where we can nail our roof rafters into. So first thing we're going to need is a board to use for a piece of lumber to use for our ridge board. We're going to use a 2x8, and just because it sounds like a great ridge board to use. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw out a 2x8, and I'm going to make it 1.5 inches by 16 feet. And then I'll use my push-pull tool, and I will pull that piece of lumber up to be 7.25 inches. That's the size of a 16-foot long piece of 2x8 material. Now, once I get it drawn, I'm going to do just like we've always done, and I'm going to I'm going to select the whole piece of lumber, and I'm going to make it a group, and then I'll go ahead and color it just so it's consistent with all of my other lumber. And now I have a piece of 2x8, and I have it vertical, so it's the same orientation that it needs to go into place up here on the peak. And now I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to bring it up here and just set it by the roof here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is find out where it needs to, exactly where it needs to go on the valley fill. Now, the ridge board has to be set so that the corners are flush with the truss. Okay, it doesn't go to the middle is up here at the peak, because then the corners would overlap the roof. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, if I were to take this ridge board, the midpoint of that ridge board, and set it up there at the center of the peak, you see how the corners of the ridge board stick out? That's not going to work for us, because we need the plywood to sit on top of that truss and to be flush all the way across. And that ridge is going to keep that plywood from sitting there. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to move this ridge board out of our way for just a moment. And then we're going to come back to the peak of that girder truss, and we're going to put a guideline in. And the guideline is going to be from this plumb cut here. I'm going to go to the right, and I'm going to go 0.75 inches. So it's half the distance of the rim board, or the ridge board. Now I can select the ridge board and move that right corner and set it at the intersection of that line. Now, if you look at it, you can see that the corners are flush with the plane that the plywood's going to sit on. And now our ridge board is in the correct location. Okay. The only other thing that we need to do is we can cut it off. Now, the ridge board is eventually going to sit on top of these sleepers we're going to put in here. But just for now, we can cut this off so that it's a little shorter. It doesn't stick out the side of the roof, the end of the roof like that. So we double click into the ridge board to get into the group. We draw a line from the intersection to the intersection. And then we hit our push-pull tool, and we push that side out of the way. And now our ridge board is cut. If we were to remove the roof plywood, the roof sheathing, you can see that it's cut at the correct angle. Even though we're going to cut it again, at least it's in the right place. Okay. Now that we have our ridge board in place, we can start looking into putting the sleepers, the 2x6s that are going to sit on top of the roof. We'll put those into place.